The U.S. and China held high-level talks on Ukraine, with Beijing accusing Washington of spreading what it called disinformation. Take a listen.
Recently, the U.S. has repeatedly spread false information on the Ukraine issue, targeting China with dangerous intentions. China's stance on the Ukraine issue has been consistent and clear. We have been playing a constructive role in making peace through dialogue. The current priority is to exercise restraints from all sides to calm the tension rather than adding fuel to the fire, to work out a diplomatic solution rather than further escalating the situation.
For more, let's bring in U.S. government reporter Emily Wilkins. Emily, this was the first meeting since October. How did it go?
So we know that it was a very long meeting, lasted more than 6 hours, and we know that from readouts that it was a substantial and candid conversation. A lot of it, of course, did focus on Russia and Ukraine, even though the meeting was scheduled before the current conflict broke out. And we heard from White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki saying that Sullivan made it clear during this discussion with his Chinese counterpart that China would face significant consequences if the country provided Russia with any sort of support that violates sanctions or supports the war effort. Now, Psaki declined to go into what sort of sanctions those would actually be. She said that those would be coordinated with the U.S. and their allies.
Emily, as you mentioned, these talks were scheduled well before the latest developments in Eastern Europe. What else was covered, particularly as we see the Chinese economy at such a delicate point? Did they talk about trade at all?
Well, we know that trade is going to be obviously a big point coming up, because it's getting to the point where the U.S. really does need to review the trade agreement that it has with China that was signed under President Donald Trump. We also know that there are numerous concerns right now simply because of where the global economy is at due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The U.S. is dealing with a number of supply chain bottlenecks, with rising inflation. And so at this point, trade with China, trade with any of their partners is certainly something that administration officials are considering and relooking at. There's obviously the U.S. and China, just given the scale of the economies, a lot to discuss there. But certainly the main focus of the conversation today was on Russia and on Ukraine, just because there would be so much concern if those news reports that we heard about Russia coming to China for aid, if those are indeed accurate. I mean, Russia and China have both said that they are not, but we've got U.S. intelligence saying that they know that Russia did come to China with a request, and really what the relationship for those two countries look like could change the course of this Ukrainian invasion, as well as really impact the relationship between U.S. and China.